Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the orientation materials of the American States Assembly. Think of this explainer as your official roadmap. We'll be walking through exactly what the source texts provide for new arrivals, exploring what the documents actually describe as an extended family gathering. Just a group of friends and neighbors getting together to work for mutual security and benefit. The source texts actually kick things off by setting a very specific tone with this quote: "Many hands make light work." And honestly, that perfectly establishes the community-focused, volunteer-driven spirit that sits at the very heart of the assembly. The materials make it super clear that the success of this whole structure relies entirely on individuals stepping up. It's about bringing your unique skills to the table, no matter how small the task might seem. So here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll cover welcome to your assembly, the history and the facts, the 4 foundational pillars, service roles and committees, the coordinator's role, and finally, expectations for all members. Let's get right into it. Section 1, welcome to your assembly. As we mentioned, it's really framed as an extended family. The texts describe the assembly as the actual state government, literally made up of free people coming together to govern themselves and secure their mutual long-term interests. Now, a really interesting point here is that joining is presented as a complete choice. No one is forced or obligated to join, but the sources emphasize a huge caveat. If you don't join, well, you aren't going to have a voice or a vote in what happens within your state. It's framed as the single, definitive way to actively participate in the rightful, lawful assembly of your area. Moving on to Section 2, the history and the facts. To really understand the why behind this movement, we have to look at the foundational proof and the historical timeline the texts provide. The source material lays out a very specific historical progression. We start in 1776 with the founding of the unincorporated federation, right? Then, the Articles of Confederation in 1781. But here is the absolute crucial turning point highlighted in the texts, the year 1872. According to the documents, the office holding the presidential summoning authority was vacated at this time. Because this authority basically sat dormant for decades, the Federation of States had to step in as the new summoning authority. The texts argue that without them imposing basic standards to bring these state assemblies back into session, we'd be looking at utter chaos, with 50 different interpretations of what a state assembly even is. To make sense of how these assemblies operate legally, the sources draw a really sharp contrast between 2 specific legal capacities. On one side, you have people. People operate in land jurisdiction, possess natural rights, and join state assemblies. On the flip side, you have persons. These are incorporated entities operating in sea jurisdiction, possessing human rights, and they join district assemblies. So the takeaway is that the state assembly is exclusively for living people acting in their lawful, unincorporated capacity. The source material refers to this as the British Romano caste system, which separates land, sea, and air jurisdictions. The fundamental point they're making here is that you get to choose your political status, but making the conscious choice to adopt your birthright status on the land is the key that enables you to lawfully participate in a state assembly. Section 3, the 4 foundational pillars. This is all about structuring your assembly, where every single member is viewed as a vital puzzle piece within 4 distinct operational areas. Okay, so the structure relies on these 4 main pillars. First up is the General Assembly. That's for everyone, and it acts as the primary driver addressing all local, in-state issues. Second is the International Business Assembly, which is specifically for state citizens to handle specialized external business. Third, we have the Jural Assembly and courts for upholding public law. And fourth is the Assembly Militia. And interestingly enough, the Assembly Militia is defined as way more than just a defense force. It's described as a community national guard. Their focus is deeply rooted in public safety and disaster preparedness. We're talking about civic tasks too, things like community gardening, forming seed banks, and establishing communication networks like phone trees during emergencies. It's a real community asset. That brings us to Section 4. Service roles and committees. This is where the source material explains how you actually find your specific place to serve within the organization. So you might be wondering who exactly is eligible to join and serve. The texts answer this directly. American state citizens are automatically part of the assembly. Furthermore, it states that all able-bodied members over the age of 21 are expected to actively support their community in some way. There is literally a role for everyone, whether you're looking for active duty or a quiet, supportive administrative task. For those stepping into leadership, the texts outline what they call the Committee of the Whole structure, which is led by a committee chair. The source material really stresses the humble nature of this position. A chair is just an elected executive administrator responsible for practical things, calling, hosting, and moderating meetings. The text explicitly notes they are absolutely not there to act as rulers. They're simply there to set the agenda, keep the records, and get the job done. Within this Committee of the Whole, the environment is supposed to be deeply collaborative. Teams tackle the serious business of the state as equals, often with coordinators helping to guide and organize the groups to keep them on track. Nobody is lording over anyone else here. It's all about mutual respect and efficient problem solving. Section 5, the coordinator's role. Let's look at these liaisons and expediters because this is perhaps one of the most critical roles in the entire Reconstruction process. The crucial point here is that coordinators actually volunteer for the Federation to act as liaisons. The texts liken them to the old circuit riders who used to travel door to door just to organize meetings. Today, they act as expediters. They help new members find their place in the puzzle, assist with all that necessary paperwork to ensure lawful standing, and really just guide the assembly forward. But the text emphasized that a coordinator's most important trait isn't just their administrative skill. Above all, they must be friendly, kind, and wise. They're tasked with being honest, inclusive peacemakers who purposefully stand above the paranoia and the politics, all to earn the genuine trust of their communities. Finally, Section 6, Expectations for all members. Here, the texts lay down the rules of engagement and the strict behavioral standards required to actually accomplish the Assembly's goals. The basic operational expectations for anyone joining are laid out in 3 simple steps. Step 1, you must correct your birthright political status. Step 2, you have to understand and officially record your paperwork. And Step 3, you are absolutely required to participate peacefully and respectfully at all times. The sources issue a very direct warning about behavior here. Because the Assembly is there to conduct serious business, causing disruption, commandeering meetings, or sniping at each other like teenagers in a locker room, that will not be tolerated. The materials state that doing so will result in immediate removal by security officers. The guidelines are incredibly firm on this. Gossiping, power-mongering, deceit, and certainly any suggestion of violence are strict causes for disciplinary action. Now, the texts clarify an important legal nuance here. While you cannot be deprived of your underlying birthright membership in the state assembly, you absolutely can lose your right to attend public meetings if your behavior becomes toxic or obstructive. Finally, the source material calmly addresses the reality of external scrutiny. It acknowledges that organizations like the FBI may investigate these assemblies. However, the text maintains that because the group proceeds entirely lawfully, peacefully, and focuses purely on correcting birthright status, they cannot be accused of any form of terrorism. Total transparency and peaceful operation are mandatory. Which brings us to the ultimate question laid out by the source material. The texts directly challenge their readers. Now that you understand the history, the pillars, the roles, and the strict expectations, how will you step up and serve your state today? It's a really powerful final thought from the orientation materials, leaving new members to seriously consider their next moves. Well, that's our explainer for today. Thank you so much for learning with me.